Okay, welcome. We continue our journey talking about the way in which I groomed my communication device, Louis Bourgeois. Interesting, later I'll talk a little bit about the cosmic joke of his name. But let's stick with the story as it's unfolding chronologically. So the first devastation, of course, was this experience at the United States Air Force Academy. And so Louis was being conditioned slowly to accept guidance and direction. Because of the devastation of that experience, Louis was, after a little time of just incubating the experience, he chose to do an easier thing than going to one of the many engineering schools that he had been accepted at before. He was a very high-level math genius, and so he had been accepted at Rensselaer Polytech, MIT, Colorado School of Mines, and such. But anyway, after his devastation, that whole egoic mental pursuit wasn't interesting to him, so he just went to the easiest place he could go to continue studies, University of Connecticut in Storrs, Connecticut. And, again, that was being orchestrated on his behalf. And because the first pointer for him was waiting for him at University of Connecticut. And this was Dr. Kenneth Ring, who would become a very prominent teacher of near-death experience. That was his thing. And so again, part of Louis's preparation is going to involve several near-death type experiences. It's a rebirthing process. So, again, he took birth in a way that was nothing but sort of rejection and abandonment, and that he would be slowly rebirthed to his true self. That, of course, is what you're looking at now, me. So along the way, Louis acquired some trappings. He met a very bright and lovely young lady, Janet Costanzo from New York City. They became engaged. Louis did well in his studies. He felt that he was headed toward a professorship like his two older sisters, being very bright and enjoying academia. It would seem that becoming a professor was the way to go. His initial interest was, of course, mathematics and physics. He had a major in physics, but slowly that changed because other things would become more interesting. He took a class in anthropology and then psychology. And so he ended up switching his major to psychology. And then as a psychology student, he was walking through one of the area where the psychology professors had their offices. And he saw this notice on the door of Dr. Kenneth Ring announcing a new experimental class in this thing that would become the field of transpersonal psychology. And again, none of this was familiar to Louis at all, but he knew when he saw that invitation, he had to sign up for the class. Again, here we go. He's being directed to his first experience, which would happen in this class with Dr. Kenneth Ring. So now we're early in the semester, spring of 1974. And in this class, Dr. Ring had the students lay on the floor. It was a carpeted graduate school classroom. And he had them lay on their back on the floor, and he brought them through a guided meditation, which was like a death trance meditation. And they were imagining themselves floating down this canal and beautiful flowers all around. They were like on a raft, and it was their death raft. They were dead. Their body was floating down this beautiful canal. And during this meditation, Louis started having this remarkable experience where he heard distant drumming, and the drumming started getting louder and louder, and he was feeling overwhelmed, filled with high anxiety, even though he actually could open his eyes and see that he was laying on a carpeted floor of an academic classroom. But in this trance meditation, it appeared to him like he was in a jungle, and the jungle natives were getting louder, the drums were getting louder, and he was experiencing a high level of anxiety. Then he experienced his nose being crushed into his face, and he was like, he felt like he was being asphyxiated. He couldn't breathe. And then suddenly the light came and everything relaxed, and he cried, and that was that. He told Ken Ring about it after the class, and Ken's like, "Oh, great! It's perfect. The death trance meditation prompted you to remember your birth. You re-experienced your birth." So, okay, so here was the beginning of this rebirthing. Louis had gone back experientially to his birth through his mother, Priscilla, into this lifetime, and basically by re-experiencing it, kind of like neutralized to some point the karma of this lifetime. Okay, so it opened him up to something else. Okay, the something else would come, maybe a week or so after this event. He was studying late at night for a statistics exam in the cafeteria of the dormitory where he lived. And here's my first direct contact with him. It was very exciting for me, because I spoke to him in the quiet, and I said to him very clearly, "You're to break your engagement to Janet. You're to quit the university. You're to get in your car and head west." Well, I think I threw in something about get rid of any unnecessary possessions. Now, here's the amazing thing. Louis heard the voice, my voice, and he did not question it. He absolutely knew he had to follow the guidance of this voice, my voice, Sun King. So this was the turning point. This, again, is something that makes all the difference, because many of you receive the call, but it seems so radical that you don't do it. You listen to the tribal and egoic concerns around you. Imagine, so Louis spent 3 weeks talking Janet through her grief, apologizing, and saying, it's like, imagine how crazy she thought he was, that he was just going to break his engagement to her, get in his car and head west, quit the university. He's in his last semester. It made no sense to anybody at all. Giving up his whole life, giving up his marriage, potential children. Janet was very fertile. They had actually already been through 2 pregnancies thus far. Anyway, here his ordinary pedestrian life would have been lovely. Academic professor, nice wife. I mean, Janet really was a soulmate. She was a lovely human being. And Louis gave it all up for moi. So imagine how happy I was that, holy shit, he's ready. He's going to do it. Now we're still, decades away from today in this space-time grid lifetime. But him making that one decision, it gave me permission now to pretty much assume authority for his life. So the other part of the story, and it's a beautiful story. So Louis gets in his car and heads west, and west could be anywhere. Connecticut's on the East Coast. USA is a big country. I think he has like $125 or something like that. And so I think he just thinks, well, I'll drive until I run out of money and take it from there. So amazing trust. Maybe a little cuckoo, but I think that's what it takes. So I remember he actually got a speeding ticket in Colorado, and I think he had this idea that he could make it to California on $125, but having to spend, I think it was $25 on a speeding ticket in Colorado, the officer wouldn't let him leave without paying, and whatever, maybe it was a bribe. Anyway, so he ended up running out of money. He had his last tank of gas and meal in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and that tank of gas ran out in Reno, Nevada. So, and it was fun. I just got such a kick out of Louis because he was such a good sport. I think many people would have just wanted to cry and run back home to mommy. But yeah, I think even what happened at the Air Force Academy steeled his reserve enough, made him strong enough to endure hardships like not having any money to get a motel room, having to sleep in his car, not having any food. Anyway, not to belabor the issue, but I was just so proud of him. He's still a young man, and I know where he has to end up, right? I know. I'm representing eternity. I can see all of the pieces of the future unfolding. So he ends up calling his mother, borrowing a dime or something to make a phone call, and calling his mom and getting her to wire him $25 so he can get, because he has a pretty good sense that Reno, Nevada is not the place he's supposed to end up. So actually, he, going from Reno through Lake Tahoe, he had this idea that he was supposed to stay in Lake Tahoe, and he did. He got a job at a casino there. But the point was really for him to get to San Francisco, and so I think he ended up spending several months in Lake Tahoe, but he took a trip to San Francisco along the way,